Hey guys, Kev here, and it is time for my full review of the Craig Brown Knives Mini FSD. So I have Mini FSD number 3. It's in 154 CPM steel. I did mod this or customize it a little bit. I took the pivot screw and the body screw from my full-size one that I then sold, and I swapped it with the hardware on this one. So this one did come, and all of them, I believe, come with the satin pivot and body screw, but I made it black. So I did check with Craig. They are interchangeable. So the pivot screw and the this hardware is interchangeable. I don't know about internals. I don't know if any of that stuff, the button or anything, is interchangeable. The clip, I assume the clip might be a little bit shorter, but who knows? But I can tell you the pivot screw and the body screw are interchangeable. I think this piece might be the pivot, but not positive. But it wasn't coated, so it didn't matter. This was 800 bones, and I would spend it again. I would spend more than that. I would easily spend $1,000 on this and not even blink an eye. If I had to get one on the secondary, like if you're out there watching this and you're thinking about getting one and you're like, is it worth paying the extra, whatever somebody's asking? The answer to me is hells to the yeah. I think $1,200 would probably be my cap on this, just be out of principle, you know. Making an $800 knife, $1,200 is kind of, you know, but it's worth at least that in my book, because this is something that'll be in the collection for me forever. And in that case, it doesn't matter how much it is, really. You know what I mean? And when I say forever, I mean, you know, until the next great thing comes along. Like maybe he comes out with the 20 CV ones and I'm able to get one. Then maybe I sell this one, right? Or he comes out with, you know, another version of it, you know. But like this model, I believe, will be in my collection for a long time. Forever is not a good word, because I probably said that about the Rosie, and I did end up selling that. That had a lot to do with the blade shape, where this does have a similar blade shape, being kind of a drop point, but this just has more utility factor to it than the Rosie, because it's just all belly on the Rosie. Anyway, I love the Rosie, just saying. So the value for me, the $800 that I paid, was a no-brainer. Happily paid it. This is milling pattern 1, which is my favorite of the milling patterns he does. It's the same I had on the full size. It is the raw titanium finish, which some people don't like. I've heard some people say it looks like aluminum or whatever. I actually think it's really nice. It's got like a shine to it, and the way it looks with the milling. I think the people who say that probably just haven't seen one in person, you know? Because I could see that being a thing. If you look at it on camera and you're like, oh yeah, it looks like unfinished aluminum or something. Sure. But once you see it in person, I think it's like, damn, yeah, that's good. And then the contrast with the black DLC hardware, I think, really hits. I do wish that this pivot was black. That would have been cool. There's a couple things on here that I will talk about that, you know, feedback-wise. But mostly everything I'm going to say is going to be super positive. This knife is incredible. It's like made for me, basically. It's like crazy how much this knife is basically made for me. It has the brown lock, which is a sort of compression style lock. It is his own sort of invention. Sorry, I got a bunch of shit in there. Damn, that's really dirty. Hold on. It's a compression style lock, but it's, you know, his lock. Like it's not like modeled after the compression lock or, you know, anything like that. I don't know if that's fuzz or oil or something maybe he had in there, or I had in there. Let me try. I just noticed some schmutz around the button there. I don't know if you can see it. Nothing like weird, just might as well clean it up while we're here. I did take this apart. There you go. So I don't know if he adds that to aid in not having any kind of like stick or anything. I don't know. Who knows? But I just want to clean it up real quick. Let me see how it feels. Any different? I mean, if anything, it feels smoother. Yeah. All right. So the compression style lock with a button sort of style, like a lot of people say it's like the smock. I don't know if that's true or not. But this is basically on the other side. So it's kind of a lefty button location. I would say lefty button lock. I know he doesn't like having it compared to a button lock, but it essentially is a button with a lock. So that's just why I say that. I don't mean it like it's the same as a plunge lock. I just mean it's a button that locks, so button lock, right? But it is the brown lock, and it's basically made for lefties. I mean, look at this. Thumb, boom. That's exactly how the operation is for you guys, righties. On the normal button locks, you just push this button, it swings down. I push this button, it swings down, right? And then for me, I have to use an index finger to close a, like Malibu or whatever, right? And for a righty on this knife, you use your index finger to close it. And it's the same concept. And the reason he did that is his thought process was to keep the button away from being able to be depressed. So he was thinking, like, if you put this in your, like, let's say you tuck it away in your right pocket, your thigh could push on the button. Like on this, your thigh could push on this and kind of open the knife up, which I don't know in theory how much sense that makes, because even if you did that, you know, you'd have it against your leg, right? The blade would be against your leg. So it shouldn't be able to open, and then it would probably just get sucked back in. But whatever the reasoning was, thank God he did it, because it's so good left-handed. And that's part of the reason I rave about this knife so much. And there's plenty of right-handed people who love this knife, so don't get me wrong there. But you have to understand when you go, man, why is he so in love with this knife? It's essentially made to operate left-handed, and I'm left-handed, so it's just really cool, okay? Now, the clip is obviously right-handed, but I have no problems carrying in my back left pocket. I love doing that. That's how I carry a lot of knives, and honestly, I prefer it at this point with a lot of knives. So righty clips aren't a big deal unless it's causing issues with me being able to flick or whatever, which in this case, you don't have that problem because you don't have a frame lock or anything like that. Aesthetically, let's run down the normal review categories. Sorry, I'm kind of off on a tangent here. 8 minutes in. Aesthetically, it's gorgeous in my opinion. If you've seen my FSD review, everything applies except it's shrunk down a little bit. But he kept all the proportions pretty much the same, which means it looks the same, just smaller. And honestly, I like it better because you're bringing some of these proportions down in terms of like handle height and blade height. It just looks a little bit cleaner to me than the full size because it doesn't have a huge blade and a huge handle, right? The full size one kind of feels a little bit like a monster in your pocket, right? A big like rectangle in your pocket. This is a little more streamlined in my opinion. If you take a knife like the Stout, which has, I would say, a relatively thin profile this way, short profile, not this way, it's not that far off. You know, it feels a lot more normal than the full size, which felt kind of big. You know what I mean? Kind of tall. So if you take something like the Jaeger, very popular knife, and we compare the heights, they're probably the same. Obviously, the shape is a little bit different, but the Jaeger might even be a little bit taller because it has the hole in the blade instead of a streamlined kind of slot. So the There's a good size comparison for you. Brian Brown knives, Jaeger M. Let's see, let's line that up and see how we look. They should be almost identical, and they are very close. We can grab that Malibu sitting at 3.4 inches on the blade length, obviously. And yeah, we are almost dead nuts. I think maybe you're getting 3.5 here. We could grab the Mini Tempest. Is a 3.5 inch blade. There we go. So just about identical on the Mini Tempest and our Mini FSD. Both knives are called minis, and they are not mini. You know, 3.5 inch blade to me is not mini, but there you go. Those are identical. But because the full-size knives, versions of those knives are so big, you know, it is technically a mini of it. The button is a little bit different than what I'm used to. I think most people are used to it being this way, where the full size I had was number 8, I think. So this is number 3 mini. I had number 8 full size, and that one had, I think, just a flat button. And that was one of the early, obviously, releases of the first version of the knife. So he's kind of dialed in the model. Yes, this is number 3, but it's number 3 of a mini of something he already did, right? Where the full size was like the first time he was actually doing this design. But I don't think there's really a difference. I think maybe aesthetically I like the look of the flat or the original version better. But he must have done this for a reason. Maybe you get a little bit more, you don't slide off or anything. Could have more to do with right-handed people. Maybe, yeah, see your finger kind of gets into that little divot a little bit. Where, yeah, okay, I feel that. Left-handed, it doesn't make a difference because it's kind of like your fatty thumb, just fatty. Your fat thumb is just pressing on it. That's why I've never noticed. Huh, cool. Okay. The milling pattern is gorgeous. I love how it's really nicely milled in there. The clip, as like the full size, it has this landing pad which says Blaine, Washington, USA on it, which is awesome. He has figured out the best clip in the game on the FSD. It has great tension. It is so easy to get in and out of your pocket, and it sits really well because of how wide it is, and it sits deep enough. It's honestly my favorite clip, I think, ever. I almost was like, is it happened? It's probably my favorite clip ever at this point. So, love it. The belt satin, this is a hand ground hollow grind, is absolutely stunning. And then you have what's essentially a tumble or a stonewash, and then it's bead belt satin. So it kind of like protects it from rust, I think, even more. I've carried an FSD or mini FSD since almost the beginning of the year, whenever they came out, and I've never seen a spot of rust anywhere on them. You have a really nicely tumbled or stonewashed fuller, and that's one of the things that really draws me to this knife as somebody who has issues with rust. It doesn't look like a traditional just bead blast, because that's usually what you get on a slot. Let's see if I can find one. Here. So here's the mini FSD, and you'll see you have a beautiful hand satin, and then in that slot you just get a bead blast, and that can rust easily because bead blasts suck. So this looks different. It has like a tumble to it, which I think helps protect it from getting rust issues. Love the choil. Love the ergonomics. So let's talk about the ergonomics. I can hold this in this back grip and get a full grip with my large glove size hand. Feels great. I'm not depressing the button or anything. I know a lot of people worry about that with this knife. Right-handed, just that button is protected by my hand here. I'm not even touching it. It looks like it, but I'm not touching it. Choked up. I never hold it choked up right-handed, so I can't speak on this, but I could see you disengaging it. I mean, I could definitely, it's in my palm. I could see that happening. Now, left-handed, nope. Again, just feels like this knife is made for me. My hand is nowhere near that button at any time when I use this knife, even in between, choked up. I mean, right there, yeah, sure, but just do that and I'm good to go. This is how I hold the knife. Most of the time when I use it, I'm choked up like this, or I'm in a pinch grip like this, right? Never had an issue with the button, and the Ergos are just phenomenal. They feel great, and that's another thing about this clip, is it just disappears. No matter which handed you are, even left-handed, it doesn't cause a hot spot like a lot of clips do for me with, you know, the ends of my fingers usually having an issue. Nope. So it's phenomenal there. Carry, again, just, I think I talked about this already. Clip is great. Carry's great. Carry's deep enough. There's no issues with carry whatsoever. Cutting. So I haven't done an ass load of cutting with this just because I'm kind of smart in my opinion. And I always carry 2 knives. And if I'm carrying this and I have to cut through a bunch of tape or something, I am just going to pull out my chickadee and I will cut through the tape or whatever it is with the chickadee. And then I will put that away, right? And then, like, I just don't need to prove to myself that I use all my knives hard and, like, just to do it. But if this is what's in the pocket, you know, and that's all I have, then boom, I will use it. And sometimes I'm just like, hey, I really feel like using the FSD. Let me use it. But I don't, like, go out of my way to beat on it. You know what I mean? I just find that silly, but... KPL Knife Shield will clean this up really nicely. I mean, you can see some of the, you know, just a little bit of whatever I was cutting. I've cut a little bit of fruit with it. I've cut packages open. I've cut a little bit of cardboard. I think I've cut a zip tie or 2 with it, opening like a kid's toy. I opened some socks I bought today and was cutting those little, you know, the little hook zip tie thingies. And it works great for all of it. I mean, it's a super thin blade. It's 154 cm, but I'm not, again, hard using it, so I'm not having an issue with edge retention. I know that's a contention with people who are like, I'll wait for the 20 CV version. And it's like, okay, you wait. You do whatever you want. But, like, I see no reason for that. Not many people are buying these too hard to use them, right? Most people are going to do probably less than I will do. You know, like, I have no qualms using it. I think most people will probably avoid using it. So why does it matter what the steel is, right? And I think 154 cm is very good steel in the custom world. And Craig likes using it. And if he likes using it, then you know what? Then it's fine. It's not like it's trash. Like, it has, look, I mean, it has a beautiful belt satin on it. I've actually had a 154 cm and a 20 CV full-size one, and I got rid of the 20 CV one. I traded it for a Rask, and I preferred the 154. Now, that one had milling pattern 2, and my 154 had milling pattern 1, and I prefer this. So I chose the milling pattern aesthetics over the blade steel, you know? I just don't see the need to have 20 CV. Now, let's say that's what you got, of course. Or if you had the choice, of course, I would go with 20 CV. But given the fact that you can only get 154 for the time being, just get it. Like, there's no reason not to, in my opinion. Sounds. They are 10 out of 10, phenomenal sounds. I mean, this goes right up there, if not better than the Factor and the Jaeger M. I would say these 3 have the best sounds out of the knives I own. One other one that's underrated in the sound category is Trevor Berger. Just the way His detent pops is incredible to me. Anything else I would put up in this sound category? Yeah, it's really it. I don't think the Evo's good, but you know, it just has a distinct sound. It doesn't have like an amazing sound. So yeah, that would be it. And this would probably be at the top of the list for me. The Factor is just, you know, it's crazy. So that one's a tough one. And the Jaeger, when it tings, sounds amazing, but it doesn't always do it. The FSD always sounds good. And what I love the most, I think, is the drop. Like it, you know, it clangs off. But it has more resonance to it than... That's kind of a thud, right? With the Malibu, I try to just catch it and have it suck it in. I let go at the right time, and it sucks it in. I don't do the double bounce stuff. Where with this, I love the double bounces. And it's mostly an acoustic thing, right? Like, you can time it to suck it in. You know? I'm not really good at it because I never do it. There you go. One more try. There we go. But I like to let it bounce because acoustically it sounds awesome. I will say the full-size FSD definitely has a notch up on this just because it's bigger, right? It just has more acoustic. It has a bigger blade with a bigger hollow grind. It has more milled out area inside of a bigger titanium frame. So it just has more loudness to it. But it has the same acoustics, if that makes sense. Action/fidget factor is off the charts. Probably the main reason it's my favorite knife and the best knife of all time. The reverse flick is just out of this world. The detent, he just understands detent. He's definitely in tune with that. If you've handled any of his knives, he kind of knows what each knife requires. The Cortex is a knife that requires a lighter detent, but he has it dialed to the point where it still feels super satisfying to reverse flick. The V2 anyway, the bolster lock ones with the slot. But then it has that amazing smooth guillotine action because it's not tuned super strong. This knife is tuned with a relatively healthy detent. I've talked to some people who think it's too strong. But the flick, oh man, it's so good. And it does break in. I mean, at first it'll feel really strong. And either you get used to it or it breaks in a little bit. But man, is it just... It's chef's kiss. Amazing detent on the reverse flick. The fuller just catches your fingers so well. I love it. Then you have a flipper tab up here. Now, granted, it's probably not the best normal flipper, and that's mainly because the detent is so strong for the reverse flick. That's awesome. It makes it almost too strong for the flipper, but I've gotten used to it, and I just love it. I mean, I drag, and I mean, just listen to this thing. I mean, it wants to hop out of your hand when you get it. There's no failing. I mean, that's me milking it. You know? The jimping is done really well. I have no issues with this flipper tab. I love it, personally. But it is something to get used to. Now, it's not meant to be a front flipper, but it kind of has jimping up here. I do wish he'd kind of commit to that and just go for stronger jimping so you can get a better grip. But it works really, honestly, easily. You just get it by the corner, pop it. This version is honestly easier for me to do it than the full size. I struggled with the full size, and I think that's just because it's a larger frame. I have to like climb up here and get a weird grip, and then it's more blade, so you have to worry about it pinching you right here, because when it comes around, you don't want to get hit by this guy and get pinched, or that guy. So you just have to be far enough back on the frame, and you kind of just get used to it over time. You just know where to go. And I kind of just flick and then kind of lift off at the same time. I don't know. I just have a method at this point. And whatever it is, that's the one downside. Sometimes you'll miss it and the deten's so strong and then you'll slide over and it can hurt. But I'll be honest, I rarely front flip this knife. I do get into a good fidgeting session where I use the regular flipper quite a bit. And I kind of do this move where I reach up and around it and then I drag it back. I don't normally do it like this, like straight back like a traditional flipper. I kind of get up around it and then pop it down. And it's fun. It's a great normal flipper. But the reverse flick is where it's at. Best reverse flicking knife, I think, ever. And then the closing action is just stupid with the brown lock. I mean, it's completely frictionless. I mean, that is just bonkers smooth. Right? I mean, look at that. I do have skiff bearings in here. I want to note that I think it's an upgrade. They come with the Delrins. They come with 3/16, 1/16 Delrins. If you want to upgrade, that's your size. And what I've found is with the skiffs, I can tighten it down more to where I have absolutely no side to side. I mean, it's a brick side to side. And it is just, there's just nothing there. I mean, it's absolutely frictionless. And I feel like with the stock bearings, you can't quite achieve that. You can get it close to tight with no, but then it's usually not as frictionless like this. It doesn't quite drop the way this is dropping. It's still amazing. I have no real issue with it. I'm not saying you need to upgrade it. It's just something I like to do. And I've noticed in both my full size and the mini that it's a preference for me. Now, I will say I'll put the skiffs in. I'll tighten it down. You can see my disassembly video. I'll get it tight, and it'll usually be not like this, right? It'll be kind of like, it'll swing down and then just a little bit of a shake, and it takes about 10 flips, and then those skiffs break in, and then it's just game over. And they have not faltered since. It is dead nut centered. Every one of his knives I've had has been dead ringer down the center, like never have to worry about it. Love it. Absolutely no lash at all. The only two downsides I have with this knife, in my opinion, are it does have that little bit of up and down. And we've talked about this in previous videos. It's the lock bar flexing, because I think there's just so much power on this lock. Because if you look at it, it's locking up right there, right? Down into that gap. That liner right there, so it's screwed in right there, pops in, right? And it pops into that hole or gap down there. And I think there's you can get so much freaking power by like rocking the blade. You're literally rocking. I mean, you have you have like, a quarter of an inch of blade cut out that lock bar is sitting in. So I don't know how to explain what I'm trying to say, but you just have a lot of leverage on it. And so it's easy to rock the lock bar up and down. But it's very minimal. And like right now, it's gone. So I don't know what the hell's going on. You can feel it a little bit. But there's no side to side at all. And it's just a little bit of up and down. Honestly, right now, there it is. But I've done the spine whack testing, and I've never had any kind of failure or anything. It's literally just the design is so strong, the lock, there it is, that it has that little bit of movement. So I don't know. Yes, I don't know. It's weird. So when I flick it out real hard, it gets more of it than if I just let it pop in like that. There's none. But if I pop it like that, I get a little bit more. So I don't know. But again, never fails or anything like that. So I don't think it's actually a concern. But I probably get a DM about that twice a week. Somebody asking about their mini FSD and how it has that little bit of up and down, and they're kind of worried about it. And I totally get it. But it's honestly nothing to worry about. And in like day-to-day use and all that stuff, there's really no reason to even think about it unless it's just one of those OCD things in your head, which I totally understand. I'm that way with centering and shit. So, but anyway, there's that. And then I just kind of wish it had pivot collars. Like they're kind of like, you know, they're milled in, right? Milled in. But like $800, it'd be kind of cool if like the full size it had actual pivot collars, right? That had the contrasted color. Like the full size has those like blasted ones that match the pocket there on the fuller. But that's really it. Those are like the only two things I can nitpick. And those are mega nitpicks. You know what I mean? It's the greatest knife of all time. I stand by that. I said that when I unboxed it, and I stand by it. I still think this is the greatest knife of all time. So there you go. That's my full review on the Mini FSD from Craig Brown. An absolute masterpiece. There's really nothing else to say about it. I hope if you're on the hunt for one that you do find one. I wish you the best of luck with that. You're not going to get mine. I hope everybody gets to experience it that wants to experience it. Oh, one other thing I want to note, somebody pointed out, was you can see these liner screws. They're T10s, and they hold in the liner. And I think somebody pointed out they thought it looked too close to like it was going to hit the blade. I've never had it come near the blade. You know, if you look at the angle, it's the mirroring that makes it look closer. But it's honestly not anywhere near touching the blade. Let's see if I can... But that's something I want to note. It is a visual thing. Maybe it would bother some people. Does not bother me at all. Yeah, I freaking love this knife, guys. I want more, but I'm being respectful because Craig has asked that if you have one, you don't try to get more. So I am not getting in on those drops or trying to get in on those drops. I may try for a 20CV one once, you know, those are available. If I get one of those, then I'd probably, you know, sell the 154 or whichever one I decided. You know, I don't ever plan to like hoard the same knife or whatever, like, you know, and if I sell it, I usually sell it at retail, so I'm not out to scalp. I might just be out to, you know, get a version I like better or something. But this version's literally perfect for me. The only thing cooler would be maybe something with different ano, or, you know, to have two and have one be, you know, a different color. But this is the type of knife price-wise that I just can't justify having multiples of. You know, I can do that when it's $300, but this is like $8. So anyway, let me know what you guys think. I don't know if I talked about the blade shape, but I love it. It's very unique to me. It is a drop point technically, but it has this kind of like hump right here, and it has a nice straight and then up to a belly, but it straights out, and it's just a really cool blade shape. I really enjoy it. And one thing I love about this knife is how it looks closed. When you look at the centering, like it almost looks like the hand on a clock, and I just think that looks really cool, like an arrow or something. But yeah, let me know what you guys think down below, and I love you guys. I hope you have an absolutely fantastic day, and I will catch you later.